Today is a bit of a revisit, if you will. We're going to take another run at OctoPrint on Windows. What's up everyone, Chris here. I hope you're all well, and a couple of years ago now we tried to run OctoPrint on Windows, and it worked pretty well. But as most of you know, Windows changes a lot. All the patches that come out change how things work. Also, OctoPrint has been upgraded a lot since then. We're now on Python 3. Now, all of the hard work on this configuration has already been done for us. Gina does a great job at keeping all the documentation up to date, even on things like this, where it's kind of a hacked version of OctoPrint, not running on a Raspberry Pi. Not saying that OctoPrint was designed to run on a Pi, but that's most of the configurations that you see. But now, with Raspberry Pi being really hard to get, I thought it would be a great time to walk through this setup one more time, because there's probably a lot of folks out there that have an old Windows machine that they can use. Now, I did buy and set up a couple of months ago one of these Windows microcomputers just for this. So that's what we're going to be doing it on today. Now, this is pretty low powered, so pretty much anything that you have at home that you don't use anymore is going to work for this setup. But we're just going to walk through it step by step, get it up and running. We'll take a look at cameras, how to get it updated, all that good stuff. So let's jump right in. I'll give you a quick look at the hardware we're going to use. So if you remember a little while back, we did set up our microcomputer. This one has a Raspberry Pi 4 attached to it. It's running TinyPilot. Remember, TinyPilot is a KVM over IP so that I can see the console. That's pretty much all I use it for. If you need to reboot or do BIOS settings, this can be really handy. I have Linux dual boot on this, so if it gets hung up, you can see what it's doing before the OS actually comes up. Not necessary for the Windows build, because we're just focused on Windows today, but we probably will use this when we jump into Linux installs. And for the camera today, I'm just using a C920. We might try to get two spun up. We'll just see how it goes. We'll throw a couple of different printers on here. I've got the Ender 3 over here. We'll just see how it all lines up. But we're going to mostly be focused on the OS install and how you get it all running. As I said before, all the hard work here has been done for us. Gina does a great job at maintaining this whole project. She's a sole creator of OctoPrint, so please consider supporting her efforts over on Patreon, GitHub, wherever she might be. But the updated Windows guide is here. Pretty much all the commands, everything you need to know is in this doc. We're just going to run through it, see if we see any snags, and then I'll show you some different configuration changes you can make to make Windows a little easier to get along with. I will be using VNC Viewer for this video today so that we can share the screen with the Studio PC with our mini PC. There's a lot of great ways to do this. You can use remote desktop client, whatever you might have. I have VNC, so I use it all the time, so that's what we're going with today. The first thing I would suggest you do, any Windows project, a hacking project like this, create a system restore point. You can just search for restore, create a restore point, and then go down here to create. Just type in the description, let's say before OctoPrint, and then it's going to create that restore point. Now, what this enables you to do, we're going to make a bunch of changes here, installing things. If something goes sideways, you can just come in here, do system restore, select this restore point that we're creating right now, and you can fall back just like nothing ever happened. In fact, I'll show you system restore, choose a different restore point, and there's the one we just created here. So restore that, you'll be good to go. So that's the first thing I do. So the next most important thing that we need to do for OctoPrint is Python. Remember, we are now on Python 3. So at least 3.7 is what Gina suggests. So we can just open up a browser and go to python.org. We're on the downloads page. Today, the current one is 3.10.5. We'll take that for Windows. And when that download's done, we'll just hit the exec and we'll start our install. I want to add the 3.10 to the path environment. That makes things easier to use. We can take a look at the custom installation options. I want the documentation. You need to make sure you install pip. That's going to help us install OctoPrint. We really don't need TCL/TK or the testing suite. We're not going to develop on this computer. We just want to run OctoPrint. We do need the Python launcher, PyLauncher. So we'll hit next. Install for all users. I usually do that with most of these types of PCs. I don't have multiple users. Create shortcuts, associate Python files, that's good. Add the Python environment variables. Precompile standard libraries. We really don't need any of the debugging stuff. That's a lot of extra weight. So let's just hit install. Setup was successful. It can be somewhat useful to disable path link here in Windows. I always do that. If it conflicts with other things on your PC, consider that. But for this install, we're just worried about OctoPrint. So I'm going to go ahead and hit close. Now we need some tools that we can use in Visual Studio. It's visualstudio.microsoft.com. I usually just search for it. Visual Studio Download will work. Here's our downloads page. Links to all this in the description, of course. Scroll down a bit. We want tools for Visual Studio. We'll expand that. And then build tools for Visual Studio right here. So we'll download. There's a couple of options here. We'll open the installer. Continue. It's going to download a couple of things here. This is pretty large. It can take a little bit. And we only want select tools. The key here is some of these are pretty large, so we don't want to install anything we don't have to. So we'll go to Available. And we want Build Tools, Visual Studio Build Tools here. Hit Install. And we just need parts of the desktop development with C++. So we'll check that. And you want to make sure you have the right boxes checked over here. We just need MSVC and Windows 10 SDK. You can uncheck these other three if you'd like. You'll notice total space required 7 gig. They are pretty big, but we're going to have them. This will take a while because it's going to download them as well. So we'll let this start crunching away here. Our build tools stall is complete. That does take a little while, probably around 30 minutes on my machine, but we're all done with that. Now let's just go ahead and check to make sure we're on the right Python version. You can do Windows key R to bring this up. I usually just go down here and type in CMD to get to command prompt. Then from here, you can just do a py -- version. We're on 3.10.5. So that's the version we installed. We should be good to go. Now let's make a directory. You can do it from here if you like DOS command, or you can just open up File Explorer. We're just going to make it in the local C. We'll do new folder, and we'll call it OctoPrint. Back to command prompt. We can change directory, CD, into C:\\OctoPrint. This is where we're going to install it. Then we're going to set up our virtual environment, py for Python, -m, venv, space venv. And after it's installed, you can take a look in there and just do a dir. We've got our venv environment. Now we just need to run the activate.bat. Under here, there's some script files, but you can just do it directly from here. venv /scripts /activate.bat. Now we're in our virtual environment. From here, we can install OctoPrint. Use pip for that. So pip space install OctoPrint. It's going to pull down the latest version, get everything installed right here in this OctoPrint directory. OctoPrint has been installed. It did give us a warning about the pip version. You can install the new version. You can upgrade it if you want to. We should be okay for now. But they give you the command right here if you want to go ahead and run it. Now all we have to do is start OctoPrint. You can just do OctoPrint SERVE. You'll probably get a warning from Windows Defender Firewall. If you're confident in your network, just go ahead and allow access. That way you can access OctoPrint from outside this PC. Allow access. And when you see done down here, info, OctoPrint is up and available. Now to get to it from your local machine, remember we're still on our mini PC that's hosting OctoPrint. For now, you can just do localhost, and you need port 5000. So just :5000. Now, the first time you run it, it's going to be just like any other OctoPrint. You're going to go through the wizard, you have to set up your username and password, there's a few other options, set up your default printer profile, all that good stuff. But mine's already set up because I have done this before. But now you have OctoPrint running under Windows. Now, to make OctoPrint easier to start and to enable you to run multiple OctoPrint instances, there's some things you can do. So for now, we'll just open up our command prompt window. We'll just do Control-C to close it. So back to File Explorer. Now we need to create some shortcuts so that you can launch more than one OctoPrint instance. We're going to use the same code base here for OctoPrint, but you have to split up the base directory. That's all the specific information for each OctoPrint instance. Plugins, appearance, all that good stuff, because you want them to be separate. Now we need some information to be able to build these out. So let's go into OctoPrint, venv, scripts. And we need the location of the octoprint.exe, which is right here. But we'll just start with the base location. So we'll right click up here and we'll copy it. And let's just paste it in a notepad so we can use it later. Now you need the location of those base directories, because we have to create multiples if we want to use multiple instances. So let's go back to the C drive, users, your username, and then you want to go to app data. You might have to go to view and tick hidden files so that you can see app data. But go to app data, and then you want to go to roaming, and then there's your base OctoPrint directory. I'm just going to create two new ones. So I'm going to Control-C to copy, and then just Control-V to paste it. And I'm going to Control-V one more time, because I'm going to make two completely separate ones. So now we have two copies of everything in that original base directory. I'm just going to rename the first one OctoPrint 1, and the second one, you guessed it, OctoPrint 2. And now we need the location of these. So we'll go up here, Control-C to copy that guy, put it in our notepad. Now we only need one more thing. We need the IP of this host name so that we can get into it from other PCs. So go to the Windows key, do CMD, and then do ipconfig. You'll find your WAN adapter, your Wi-Fi adapter, Ethernet, whatever it might be. This is your IP right here. It's going to be something similar if you have a home network. So we'll copy that and paste it in our dock. Now we have everything to create our shortcuts. So just out here on the desktop, right click, new, shortcut. And we'll just build it all right here in this first panel. So back to our notepad, let's grab our OctoPrint script that we need to run. So we'll paste that, and then you need to do /octoprint.exe. And then after that, you need serve, S-E-R-V-E. So we're good for OctoPrint. Now we need to tell it to go to the base directory that we want it to go to. So --base dir equals, and then in quotes, we need to add our information. Back to Notepad, we need this roaming directory. Paste it right there. And then after that, you need that base dir you created. So OctoPrint 1, quotes. Good there. Now we need to tell it what host to use. So that's that IP, --192.168.1.81. And then the port to use. For the first one, you can just go with the default port. So --port. I'm sorry, on the IP I forgot host. You need --host equals that IP. And then on the port, you need --port equals 5000. So there you go. You're good there. Then hit next. You can call it whatever you like. We'll just call this one OctoPrint 1. And we'll hit finish. So there's our first one. Now we can just copy that one and make a few minor edits. Right click, copy, paste. And let's go ahead and rename it OctoPrint 2. Right click, properties. And we just need to make a minor change here. Let's go back just a little bit. Base dir OctoPrint 2 to use our second set. Host is the same, and then you just need a new port to be able to use it on. I'm just going to go with the next one in line, 5001. hit apply, hit OK. Now we can spin these up. Now, if you're having problems, Notepad is not the best thing to copy and paste from. If you have problems, it says it can't find files. I've had this many times in the past. Either use something like Notepad++ or just hand type in these responses. A lot of times the copy and paste isn't all that good. It puts in characters that it shouldn't. So do that if the copy and paste isn't working, if your shortcut doesn't complete successfully. But let's go ahead and start OctoPrint 1. We'll just double click on it. It's coming up. And then OctoPrint 2. We can go ahead and open our browser, and we'll start these. With that host equals, you will have to use the IP now, 192.168.1.81, and then colon 5000 for the first one. And we have our brand new base dir. So we have to go through the wizard. That's a good thing. That's all your config files. But let's go ahead and duplicate that. And we'll just change this one to 5001. And here's our new wizard. Let's just run through one of them real quick. I just want you to verify that they are both separate. So let's do next. Enter in your username and password you'd like to use. We'll create an account. We'll hit next. Online connectivity check. Yes. Good. Anonymous. We'll go ahead and send our data. That's helpful to the project. Next. Enable plugin blacklist. Next. Default printer. Let's just change this so that we can see that it changes. OctoPrint 1. And server commands. You're not going to be able to use these. You're going to have to control it with that command line window. So you won't have a power button, but you'll have to use it out there on the desktop, remote into the PC, all that good stuff to get it to restart. Next. Webcam. We'll talk about this here in a minute. Next. And finish. And just for fun, let's go to Settings. And we'll go to Appearance. Let's change this to OctoPrint 1. And the color, let's make this one red. We'll save. And then our next one, I'm going to go through and do all the same things. Only on this one, I'm going to go ahead and create that profile, OctoPrint 2. That's done. Let's go to Settings. We'll change this one up as well. Appearance, OctoPrint 2, and let's make this one blue. Save. And now that they're set up, everything's saved, the wizards are good, let's go ahead and close these out real quick. We'll just Control-C them. You can see these go to sleep. Server's offline. We'll just go back to our desktop. Let's start them up. When they're back up, all we want to do is make sure we have our OctoPrint 1. It's red. And our OctoPrint 2 in blue. Now we need to plug in some printers. So back at our mini PC here, I have a regular Ender 3 V2 just as an example, and I'm going to use this hub. Now, depending on how many things you plug in, how many cameras, how many printers, you might need a powered hub. This is one, but in this demonstration, I'm just going to use it as a passive hub, because I've found you can do quite a bit with the Windows install with a regular passive hub. So all I'm going to do is plug in the first printer and power it up. We'll just plug that to any port on your hub. We'll power up. I hate that sound. Then we'll go back to OctoPrint. And if you have the correct drivers, you might need a CH340 driver or something to be able to use these. But once the printer's up and plugged in, you can usually just refresh your OctoPrint instance, and then you should have a serial port to select. See, now we have COM3. Windows is really good about keeping track of these, way easier than Linux. So let's just go ahead and say save that connection. We'll just let it auto connect when it comes up, and we'll let it pick the baud rate. It's going to be either 250,000 or 11.52. But let's go ahead and connect, and we are up. We can even see all of the G-code files on the USB card, temperatures reporting correctly, terminal, we're good to go. So there's the first printer. And what I like to do is just go and rename these. So it's not going to forget the COM ports. Windows won't forget until you dump it. You would actually have to go do that on your own. So it's going to save these. So I just go into Settings, and then in Appearance, I like to put my COM port up here so that I know exactly which one I'm on. So we'll hit Save. That way, if I unplug them, plug them back in, when it comes up as COM3, I know to go in here and go, boom, COM3. Now, let's plug in our second printer. We'll just plug that in again to any port on the hub, and we'll power up. And then go to our second instance. We'll refresh it. And you can see in serial port, we have auto here, but we have 3 from our first printer, and now we have 4. Same thing, I'm just going to let it save. We can connect. It's super quick. We do get this warning up here. This is the notorious Ender 3 V2. This is the original firmware. OctoPrint is telling us that this firmware is broken, doesn't work all that well, but you get the point. After you upgrade the firmware on your V2, it would be fine. But we are connected. The terminal is reading all the temps. By all means, we are ready to go. But then, I just like to come up here to Settings, go to Appearance, and OctoPrint 2. Again, I just like to save that COM port, so I know exactly where to go if I want to unplug all this stuff. And we're good. Multiple printers running on Windows under OctoPrint. And any plugins you want to use, anything like that, they're going to be separate. You can install them. It works the same way. Remember, the only thing that doesn't really work is the power down and the updating OctoPrint. You have to do that command line. But you only have to do it once since we're using the same code base. So now that I've created a huge mess here, that's how you get multiple instances of OctoPrint running on Windows. And they do run really well. Now for cameras aren't that easy. You have to have another application to be able to run them. Running one is very straightforward. I'll show you how to do that. Running multiples is not. You have to run them in service mode. You have to change up some config files. I do have a lengthy tutorial how to get that done. I will leave a link below for the hardcore users. But let me show you just how to get one up and running real quick. So all this is going to do is serve that webcam for you. Again, one is fairly straightforward. We need to enable HTTP and streaming. So we can do both video and time-lapse. We will need a plugin for time-lapse. We'll talk about that in a second. Settings. Go to Device. We're just going to select that C920 that we plugged in. Change to C920. There's our preview over here. So we're already up and running. You can see some of the studio. Not real exciting. Go to Settings and Edit Settings. We're just concerned with HTTP. This is for snapshots. We can leave it on the default port. We'll set that up in OctoPrint. I'll show you that. And then stream. You will need to make sure this says MJPEG, not JavaScript. It won't work with JavaScript. So make sure that setting's set correctly. And the default port of 8081, just for one instance, should be okay. You can come in here and set image quality. By default, it's very low. We can bump it up a little bit. Set that however you want. So we'll hit OK. With those two turned on and this running, you can run this as a service. Again, that's more advanced. That'll be in the other video. But we'll go to OctoPrint, and you just want to open up Settings and go to Webcam Time-Lapse. And for video streaming, you're going to want http://, then the IP of this machine, remember from ipconfig all, and then you have to have :8081. That's the setting in YawCam. You can update that to whatever port you like, but that's the default one. And then your default name for that stream feed is video.mjpg. So type all of that in, and you can hit test. And there is our stream here in OctoPrint. So we can close that. Then for our snapshot URL, you can just use localhost. So do http:// localhost, and then colon, you saw it in the settings in YawCam, the default port is 8888/out.jpg. So that'll get you your snapshots. You can hit test, and there's your snapshot. Now, you do need an FFMPEG plugin to be able to take those time lapses. And you can get those from a lot of different places on the web. This is just one that I found. The one from the previous video actually was expired. It's no longer there. So I'll update that one and leave this in the description. But I'm just going to grab this 7-zip file for the essentials right here. You might need 7-zip to extract these. I've already extracted mine, but you should be able to just right-click. If you have it, you can extract here to a folder. And this is what it looks like after it's been expanded. It's a big long name, but in here in the bin files, this is actually the one that you need. So I like to put these in a location that's easier to get to. So I'm just going to go back up to the parent folder. I'm just going to take off everything except that FFMPEG. And I'm going to right click and copy it. And let's just put it in our user folder. So we'll go back to C, Windows. Not Windows, that's just what C is called on my machine. C, users, my username, and let's just paste it right here. Now we can take the path to this folder. We'll just go in, copy this, and then back to OctoPrint, you can paste that path in here. You have to fix it up. We need to go to the bin directory, and then / again, FFMPEG .exe, and then you can test it. Path is valid. You should be good to go. Just hit save, go to Control tab. It's very low quality, but there is our camera. You can adjust that quality inside YawCam if you'd like. So now you can set up time lapse however you want. You can use this camera to watch your print straight from Windows. And just to make sure it works from other machines, we can get out of VNC here and go to our main PC. And we'll just open up a browser. And let's head to the IP for our new Windows OctoPrint machine, 5000. We can log in. And there's our instance. Go to Control. There's our cam. We are good to go. So there you go, OctoPrint on Windows. It's not that hard to get set up, and you can even run multiple OctoPrint instances fairly easily. Now the camera, on the other hand, it's not that straightforward. Just one camera with YawCam isn't too bad, but if you want to run multiples, there's lots of hacking around you have to do to be able to run multiple instances of YawCam. I do have a video on how to get that done. You can check it out if you'd like to, but maybe it's not worth all the trouble. This is probably just for folks that want to run multiple printers on a Windows machine. It should do that fairly well. So hopefully you found this helpful. That will be it for today, and I'll see you really soon on the next one.